Greetings and good evening, and welcome to the Psychic Inside Show. My name is Joelle, and I am the Viberarian. I am here to elevate, enlighten, and empower with information that I hope that you find uplifting and helpful for you as you are going along your journey. Every Tuesday evening, I'm here on the Viberarian Radio Network on Blog Talk Radio to talk with people about their journey discovering their psychic gifts and abilities. Now, I believe everyone is psychic. You just may not realize it. So every week I bring people on who are sharing from their experiences with the hope and goal that you will hear something that sounds familiar, possibly about your own experience, and that you will be enlarged from what you hear. The line for the show this evening, if you want to call in with a question, is 646-787-8436. And you can just press pound at 1 and pound key if you want to come on the air to ask a question during the show. And I've also got a chat room here available during this broadcast, so if you would like to pop in there, it's on blogtalkradio.com/theviberary. And that is TheViberary. Now, I am putting together a community of people I like to call the Good Vibe Tribe, and our goal is to uplift each other's energy. I'm asking if you would join me in helping to do this. Join my Facebook page, The Viberarian, or follow me on Instagram and Twitter. If you see something that you think needs to be passed on and amplified, definitely tag me, get lifted, or hashtag Good Vibe Tribe so that I'll see it. I absolutely want to be able to spread those positive messages as far as possible. If you are in Facebook or on YouTube, you can also catch all of these broadcasts that are the interviews on the programming at any time on the replay on the Viberary YouTube channel, and also iTunes in the podcast directory and Stitcher. So if you're a person who likes to download things and listen in your car, all of the episodes of this show are certainly available for you to access at a different point in time. So this evening, I'm very, very excited about the show. Of course, I say that every week, but that's because every week I truly am really eager to have the conversations with my guests on the show. Tonight is no different, and I wanted to share with you that one of my favorite places, you'll hear me talk about this all the time, is the Big Psychic Fair. Atlanta is a wonderful place for the metaphysical community. We've got several thriving metaphysical stores and also psychic fairs and places. It's kind of more normal here to be having conversations about psychic life than you might find in some places. And I've been going to the Big Psychic Fair for probably 20 years now. And over time, I'm talking probably 5 or 6 years ago, I had an encounter that just really shocked me and left my jaw just hanging in amazement. And that was that I sat down to have my palm read. And my guest this evening, Cassandria Hanna, is a palmist and palm reader, and that was who I was sitting across from. And let me tell you, she pulled out this magnifying glass and asked me for my hand. Next thing I know, she was reading everything about my life and how kind of my family dynamic and things that I had already experienced. And it was just the casualest thing as she would say, oh, and so blah, 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 and you have blah, blah. And I'm like, what are you seeing all this in these little tiny lines? So I thought it was so fascinating. And since that time, I have sat across from her on more than one occasion. I have many friends and received the story that is written in their palm. So I'm very excited to welcome you to the Psychic Inside Show this evening. Cassandria Hanna, thank you.
And thank you for the invitation. I'm looking forward to talking with you.
Absolutely. Now, let me tell you, when I see psychics, like even in the time period before there was kind of a forward-facing storefront type of psychic access, you would always see these little signs on a little house by the side of the road that would have a palm on it, and it's a Sister Mary's palm reading the psychic. But it was always kind of this, to my perception, it always seemed kind of like scary or fearful. So I honestly, never thought that I would encounter someone. I think one time at Underground Atlanta, it was kind of more like a entertainment reading. I didn't necessarily feel like the information that was coming out was super valid, but your reading was absolutely different. How did you even begin to come to looking at the palms as a source of information?
Well, I think it evolved after getting involved more with metaphysics. There are many aspects of metaphysics. In fact, when I think of metaphysics, I think of a large, beautiful tree and with strong roots, so the trunk is very large, and branches are going in all directions. And as the tree grows, there are more branches growing. So these branches, in my mindset, represent every aspect of metaphysics: the psychic, the medium, the palmist, the healer, and all the clears. That's clairvoyant, clairaudience, and so on. So that's how I think of it. So it was natural. If I'm in this field, I want to try different things. I'm, based on my hand reading, I'm a person who is interested in many things. It's like you put up a smorgasbord of delicacies, and I don't want just one. I want to just take a look at what's all there and then sample different ones. So that's it. That's how it started. I'll be honest with you. When I first started in this area, because this is completely different from what I used to do, palm reading didn't come up on the register at all. That's something I wasn't really interested in. But I might say it might be a little hereditary because my father was a palm reader. But he wasn't doing it after we were born, my siblings and I. But he was very good at it. He was a clairvoyant also, and I don't know if I come up to the level where he was. I'm only saying that simply because I never saw him read before. But in talking with people who knew of him, they always said, oh, your father was this. Oh, he was so good, Mr. Hanna, so on and so on. So I decided I'm going to give this a try because I wanted to try astrology and other things. I said, well, I'll give it a try. And I took a course, and by the end of the course, I did very well. But after that, I drew a blank. I didn't remember anything. It was like I didn't take it. Yeah, I won't go that far. But I took it, but I didn't feel comfortable enough to call myself a palm reader. So I'm a very competitive partner. Sorry, I'm a very competitive person, and I like to challenge myself. I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
No, I was wondering. So the course that you took, was it specific to palm reading at that point, or was it more of a?
That's a good question. It was called parapsychology. Always interested in that. I took workshops when I was much younger, just because it was kind of interesting, and I could relate to it in some aspects. But in this course I took, it was a little bit of many things. I Ching, a little astrology, numerology. And I said, this is something interesting. I'm going to give it a try. So you had to take exams on each one. You had to show that you mastered it to a certain degree where you could at least work with it. All right. So everything went very well. All the other things seemed to resonate with me, and I remembered them after the class, after getting the grade and the certificate, except palmistry. And I couldn't understand. So I got another book, and I read through that carefully, And I said, I think I have it. So I said, I'm going to test myself with someone. So I had a doctor's appointment, and I found myself looking at hands. And I was checking myself, going through the review in my mind just to make sure I got it. I started blanks again. I wasn't remembering anything. It was just difficult for me to get. But I hung in there. I decided to start with one thing. And I said, well, I remember some things about the thumb. And I reminded myself, after all, Cassandria, you're not doing a reading. You're just testing, just to see. And plus to see whether people were interested. So I just happened to say to some of the receptionists, and they were young people too, I said, may I see your thumb? I'm studying palmistry. Oh, my God. The whole hand came out. So I felt, maybe people are interested in this. So I remembered 3 basic things to say about the thumb. I said, I'll just tell you a little bit about your thumb. So I told about the thumb's length in comparison to the index finger. The location will determine the type of person you are, and then opening the hand to see whether you are a very generous person, you might be a little gullible in your generosity, or you're closer to one who would be more like a Scrooge. So I remembered that. So I told this person that I went to see the doctor. I looked at his hand. He's a nice person. He's very open. I did the same with him. He just laughed. But a little fascination was in that laugh, I felt. So at the end of that, I came to the girls again, and because I had to set up an appointment, and there were 2 other girls who wanted me to do the same thing. So I said, there's an audience for this, because I didn't think of that when I was taking the course. So I did the same with them. And they said, can you tell me a little more? And they wanted me to read more. So that was like a stimulation. I've got to get going with this. There's an audience for this. So that was my start with it, from difficulty to walking slowly, finally getting it. And I stayed with it until I felt comfortable enough. And then I started going at it a little bit at a time. With this, because it's an art form and it's ancient, if you're going to be good at what you do, it's going to take time, and it's going to involve regular practice. You can't just do it and think you have it, because there are other things you have to tie in. Yeah. So that's how I got started, and ever since then, I have enjoyed it so much. Sometimes I'll meet people, and I'm fascinated with hands, and I see their hands, and I say, I have to tell them this. So I just talk with them briefly to see if they're a little open, and then I immediately tell what I do, and the hand comes up. I have not met anybody that would pull their hands in. And people who have strong feelings about anything metaphysical, they're not open to it. I see them looking at their hands. They don't show me their hand, but they look at their hand and start pointing and trying to figure the lines, and I'm watching. I don't press them because I feel people should feel a little open. And there are other ways of telling if a person is open, so I'm kind of enjoying this. Out of all the metaphysical things I'm involved with, I really enjoyed this. Reading palms.
How long, you use the term parapsychology, which to me is very much kind of like 70s and 80s lingo for metaphysical things. So how long ago were you starting to be curious and look into studying it then?
Oh, okay. Well, then we have to go back to when I was much younger. That's when I first came upon this heading. I'm from Miami, and there were workshops going on at that time. But before the workshops, that was in my teens. Before the workshops, I noticed there was something about me that the experiences I had, this is before I was age 10, that my siblings did not have. Now, I came from a family that were very open to this because of my father. My mother had, we call them straight dreams, but dreams, it's just a terminology. These are dreams people have that the next day they'll find that there's some truth to the dream they can look for. So this is what they believed in. Their friends, my relatives, many of them were psychics or mediums or involved in something like that. So this was nothing foreign or something you move away from. This is just how we are. That was the atmosphere I grew up in. But I started experiencing things myself, seeing spirits, waking up to something. I didn't know what it was, but I didn't want it there. And to the point where I was afraid to go to sleep because I knew the times the spirits will come in. After midnight, usually around 12:30 a.m., at least for me. I can't speak for others. And until about 3 o'clock. Well, they didn't wait that long, but I tried. It never worked. My sister sleeping next to me. I would wake up and look at her. She's sound asleep. And I'm in the midst of all of this. So I went through that, and it frightened me because I didn't understand. Many times I'm running out of the bedroom telling my dad there's a spirit in the room, and he'd go in the room, stay in the room for the rest of the night because I was not going in there, and I did not. So the next morning he would say, he didn't say anything. I said, did you see it? He didn't say anything, and I kept prodding him. Finding there was nothing there. It had already left. He never put me down like, you didn't see anything. Never, no. It wasn't that kind of atmosphere. So this happened several times. So that's how I got involved. I wanted some answers, and the best answers I felt would go to people who aren't directly involved with this. Because with me, I was involved with music and other things like that, never in this. So I went to these workshops, and they were fascinating. I mean, really fascinating. I found I'm really interested in this. I want to learn more. I remember going to one class. The lady talked about parapsychology in more detail, explaining many aspects of it. It's a broad heading for metaphysics. Metaphysics, we're using that term more now, but parapsychology covers it all. You can think of it as the umbrella. Okay. Yes. So after class, I was getting my things ready to leave, and she came up to me. She says, your channel is open. I didn't know what she was talking about. I never heard that kind of talk before. And I looked at it. I said, what channel? She says, you need to close it. It's not good to have it open. I still didn't know what she's talking about. I said, well, what is a channel? She says, see someone that will help you. That's all I got from the lady. So I wondered what she meant. I didn't know. All the while I was a teenager, taking workshops, always interested in something new. And it wasn't until I got in my early 20s and I took more courses and I found out what the channel was. And I think that's one reason why I was seeing all these spirits and all these things coming in. I could feel their energy. Sometimes I feel them, and of course I saw them. So I learned to sit down, and that's when it stopped. Fortunately, I didn't get with any of those little terrible entities, the playful ones, I call them, tricksters. I never had that issue. But anyway, that's how I got involved, really interested in it. Now, I wasn't interested to the point of reading for anybody. That never occurred to me to do a reading. I felt, how do you do a reading? And I wasn't going to embarrass myself to say that I was a reader. But some things I need to know, I'd be called and asked about the hurricane that was coming. Is it coming here? Look inside and see if the hurricane is coming. My friends and family knew I could pick up things. And I remember there was a big one coming, and whenever they come from Africa, they have a long way to come and to grow and become more powerful. Well, we had one called Ivan. They called him Ivan the Terrible, and he was. Huge hurricane, very strong, over 150 miles per hour wind. So it was coming here to Florida. So I just sort of went to the atmosphere, and I saw how it was moving. It came below Florida, and then it came straight up. But it came on the west side of Florida. It didn't touch Florida. Oh, you're talking about a relief for the family. I didn't tell anybody else. But that was interesting, and it hit me. Maybe I can do this. Plus, I remember my brother, my second brother, was staff sergeant in the Air Force, and he was stationed over in Germany. And we expected him to come home in 69. I think it was, was it? I might be off in the year, but in the 1900s. And he was coming home. He had finished his work over there. And my godmother, who lived across the street, who was a psychic, like I said, family, neighborhood, everybody. So she read for my mother, and she says, I see your son is going to surprise you. He's coming home earlier than expected. So, and she says, now, don't worry. Everything is happening as it's supposed to happen. And that part didn't make too much sense. So we were just kind of looking for him, and he was supposed to come home, as far as we knew, in May. And one morning in February, I'll never forget, I was preparing to go to work, and I hear my dad say, no, not my son. And my mother was crying, and there was the gentleman for the armed forces who comes and tell you that your son is dead. He was killed. So that was very shocking. Okay, so we managed to get through that. We had to make preparations for the funeral, and my brother came to him, and he said, are you afraid? I said, no, I'm not afraid. I was scared to death, of course. So one morning when they were shipping his body here from Delaware, Dover, Delaware, that's where they send the bodies first, and then they ship to the home. I woke up, and my brother woke me up, the one who had passed, and says, tell Mama and Dad, they've got to check things before 3 o'clock. Remember, 3 o'clock. That would be 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Check. Things aren't going well. So I told my dad, and he believed me because, I would say things and they would come out okay. And there was another funeral home that was claiming his body. People do things like that. And if my dad hadn't called at 3, it would have been nothing he could have done about it because they were ready to ship him. So that was great. So that was another thing for me to say, well, you could do this. But I had concerts to get rid of. Not get rid of. to finish up.
To get out of your system.
And I didn't have time for this stuff. So anyway, I wasn't thinking about getting into it. I just continued what I was doing and enjoying that, looking for more. But toward the 90s, early 90s, well, actually it was in the 80s, I said, I feel I need to be doing something else. I don't know what it is, but I feel there's more I'm supposed to do. And that was the beginning of me changing fields and going into where I am now. So that's how I did it.
I think it's so interesting because, you were in a fostering environment, which what I hear over and over again in people's stories, it alleviates so much of the pain and the scary trauma that happens in childhood when you are channeling or seeing spirit and no one is believing you. So the fact that you had like an extensive community where this was commonplace had to have been so positive for your outcome and embracing everything that was coming on. Because I imagine if I told my parents something like, I'm fairly new into the psychic life, and so there are challenges in terms of conversations, but when you do have that foretelling, that kind of begins to make people take note differently and yourself to take note differently as well.
I agree with you. It depends on the environment that you come from. That doesn't say you can't do this. It just says that maybe that's not the way you're going to get into it. You have to do other things first. And then when you are able to stand on your own 2 feet, make your own decisions, and be comfortable and feel strong, you could do it. If there is a desire to do this, you will do it. It's not like you have to start completely from scratch, because we're all born with the gift. We all are psychic, or if you prefer the word intuitive, we all born with that. That's a natural gift. Some people, I reckon it, I may compare it to like a person studying the piano. Everybody can learn. Piano is an easy instrument to learn. It's just the mastering of it that's the difficulty. So you have people who have the gift, who want to learn, and they will learn, but to what degree? Maybe they want to see the dead, talk with the dead, but that's not their calling. Maybe their calling is more toward hearing spirit speak. That would be clairvoyant. Or maybe they can see, clairvoyance. They can see. Maybe they do both. Or perhaps they feel energy. If someone is sick and they're around, they sense it and they can feel that energy. They become empaths. That's clairsentience. So we have a term for all of these things, because people feel that humans have only 5 senses. Actually, we have the 6th sense. That's the intuitive sense. And I tell you this from my experience, if you're destined to get into this area, I mean, take it seriously, do it professionally, or accept that you have a gift and you have a calling, you have to do it. You'll feel this strongly if it's for you. It will come out of the closet in spite of you. It's like you have this special gift and it's sitting on a shelf in this closet. The door is locked. You forgot about it, because you know this when you first come into the world. But since you're in a different body, because we're all spirit, when you come in, you come into this body. That's the only way we can live here on this planet. We have to be in this body, this flesh and blood. You forget about who you really are. And but if your destiny says you're supposed to do this work, I'm telling you, that closet door will unlock itself and the gifts will come out. And you'll see things differently. It doesn't mean you give up faith. In fact, I can only speak for myself. I was brought up in the church. My father was a lay minister. He was the choir director. I was the organist. I started playing at age 12, and I continued on to 2002 was when I gave my letter of resignation from playing for a church. I was very much involved with the church. So it's not that you would have to give up your faith. It just, you feel so much closer to God, whether you call him pure consciousness or say the universe. It's the same. You really feel it. It's a genuine feel. So you're not going to move away. You're not shutting down. So if people have the gift and they're fearful of, oh, I can't do this anymore, no, that's not what the gift is all about. The gift simply means we are here to help humanity. We are here to give service to humanity, whether it's through counseling, whether it's through healing, whether it's through laying on of hands, whatever it is. The gift will lead you in the right direction. The point is, as you get older, don't even waste your time in trying to shut it off, because when it's supposed to happen, it's going to happen. So just enjoy your life and let things flow.
Let it flow.
Because I firmly believe also that there is no mistake in life. Everything happens in perfect order. We just don't understand why it's happening like this. We tend to see the result of it happening or the end result later. But the universe knows.
It's so interesting because you talk about the desire, and absolutely for me, one of the universal principles is that if there is a seed of something inside of you, You may desire to be a mother. You may desire, like that is in you for a reason. It's not something that we're to rationalize away or explain away.
Yeah.
If you're meant to play an instrument, if you don't have a piano but you're meant to be musical, then you will find yourself in the mall with the player piano that's sitting in the courtyard plinking around. You'll find yourself around a keyboard piddling around.
Yes.
If you're Michael Jordan couldn't stay away from playing basketball because in his deepest desire and joy was really his love of the game. And there's so many gifts that may not be classified as, psychic. But if you're a bean counter, say you're an accountant, and you really love to straighten money out for people, you are still serving humanity by being the accountant that you desire to be. And you should absolutely pursue that regardless of the title of what it is, whether it's a woo-woo profession, as people say, that's unexplainable or there's no one else with that job title. The job title doesn't appear in the HR handbook. It doesn't matter. There will be a way for you to exist in the natural gift that Spirit endowed you with when you came onto this planet. That's true. The beautiful part
and
to
the Spirit,
me.
Yes, and the Spirit is always hinting or touching us, trying to help us along. If there's something we're interested in and you are passionate about that something, that says that's what you're supposed to do. So go for it. Don't worry about how I'm going to do this. Ha, 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 ha. Things tend to fall right in place to help you. You'd be surprised about the invisible universe that lives around us, that's always trying to help us. So just let go and just do it. Be happy. And if passion is very important. If you're doing something you're not too excited about and you need to leave it, but you haven't left, I tell you, those spirits are bold enough to make things uncomfortable for you there. So you say, well, I'm leaving. This is it. You were destined to leave. We're supposed to be happy and enjoy ourselves and what we're doing. So if you find yourself in a situation where you're not happy, that's not for you. Find what you're interested in. Find what you love. Find what you're passionate about. That's what you're supposed to be doing. And some of us are late bloomers. We see this later in life because there are other things we have to learn. It's like we're all going to school here. There's certain assignments we have. And many times we don't like the assignment, we don't like the teacher, we don't like the schoolroom. That's not important. Learn what you can, get your degree, get out, move on.
And move on.
That's yes, you have to. You have to. And maybe that means a little more maturity is needed, a little more growth, a little more learning before you're ready to move on. But you will get to a point where there's something that you had been thinking about and you put on the back burner, but you can't stop thinking about it. And that means maybe it's time to just give it another look and see if your passion is there. Yes. Don't be afraid to explore. That's one of the things that we are a little afraid of, the unknown. We're too worried how it's going to happen. It's not for me. I've never done anything like this. But it stays in your head. You can't stop thinking about it. That happens to everybody. That means just take a deep breath and dive in. Go for it. You have to. Otherwise, you can stay where you are, and then you'll find you're a little miserable, and then the misery gets even more, and you can't take it anymore. You come up through that feeling. We all go through that periodically. Yes. But for happiness, you really should be involved with things that you love, things you're passionate about. And it will always pay off. So
things that make the heart sing.
Yes,
now,
that's so
one
important.
of the things that people are so fearful, to be honest with you, is mostly because there's been a religious or moral teaching that occurred at a young age that says that these things are forbidden or they would compromise your salvation. And I think it's interesting that you said, your father was a lay minister and you were a church musician. And in many churches, there's a prophetic telling by the ministers or the prophetess. It's part of that particular faith practice. But I think most of the mainstream Protestant type things don't necessarily have a place for psychic gifts in general. It's like only certain people are kind of considered permitted to have that psychic gift. But when you look back at like your time as a church musician, do you have an awareness of actually using your clairsentience as part of your music ministry?
I always did, and I didn't realize I was until later on. I always did. I got my inspiration. I knew it was something about playing a pipe organ. It would get to me. I didn't associate that with metaphysics or parapsychology at all, even though I was kind of immersed in it. But I noticed I would get to the organ and I get so involved with the music, and my eyes were closed and something else was playing. I mean, my fingers were there moving, but I felt very strongly there's an entity there. There's a spirit there. I didn't know what it was, but it was something else doing the playing. And I wasn't afraid. I was just, it's like you just sit up and watch something happen and can't believe it. But it's happening. Well, that happened several times. So that also pushed me more into this field. But I had experiences, and I would see, I was the organist at an Episcopal church, and very traditional, but it was very, it's Anglican, something like the Church of England. So
high church.
Yes, high church. And with one poor musician that's in charge of everything, I could be a little tough. But anyway, I loved it. And when the acolytes, especially on the higher services like Easter celebration or Christmas, and they're walking around with the cross and the minister and the choirs and all, I could see angels. It's like they were angels moving, and I felt so spiritually high. It's hard to describe, but it was such a beautiful, beautiful experience. I would see that, and that's when I felt so close to God, really. So I did have a lot of interesting experiences as organist, and I just had to be there. That held me there. It couldn't have been the salary, because salary was kind of low. That was
service. It's service.
It was just there. Plus, the whole family was there, and when it was time to take a break, I could laugh about it. My dad would say, well, you can't take your vacation, because I'd be off for a month in August. Well, you can't take your vacation this month. And I said, why? This is my month to go. Well, this person is sick, and, they may pass away, and you have to be here to play the organ for the funeral. So I can laugh about it now, but I didn't laugh then. I wouldn't go anywhere, but I'd be away. I wasn't there for Sundays, but I was like there on standby. I was on call. And if someone did pass away, I would come right there. So that was me for so many services, because I didn't have an assistant. And that I had to prepare everything. But I must give it a little credit, because since I am a musician, I was inspired to do descants on several of the hymns. That's the added soprano line. And also have little small groups singing. And I did the arrangements for the piece they did. Some famous classical things or spiritual or something. I always came up with something to try to make the service a little more spiritual feeling, and which I did. I just felt inspired. And with me, once a melody came out, here comes another one. It was like a faucet. I couldn't shut it off. And I think many musicians will tell you that when the ideas come, they just continue to flow. So I got my inspiration there. I got plenty of inspiration. I never saw myself doing anything else, just being the church musician or playing the piano, doing concerts, and so on and so on. That was my life. Very devoted. Very devoted.
Yes.
And I have no regrets. That's what I was destined to do for that time. But everything has an ending. Once I left, I just felt it was time. I needed to do something else. That's when I got that urge to, there's something more I need to do. I couldn't put my finger on it. I didn't know what it was. But that feeling came stronger. And my mother had asked, and I said, well, there's no need to stay here anymore. Plus, I had enough with the hurricanes. Now, that was a horrible thing that happened in the weather, horrible in Alabama a couple of days ago.
Oh, yes.
And I understand. I really understand, because it's shocking to think that much wind was on the ground for an hour and some minutes with a hurricane.
Yes.
They're not that kind. They tend to come in the evening time. So all through the evening, you've got this pounding, heavy pounding. You hear windows cracking. It's dark. And it's just a frightening experience, because, like, it never ends. It may start around 12, and when does it stop? The next day. So you're constantly bombarded with this. And so Florida is known for that. But I said I grew up with these hurricanes, and they're getting stronger and stronger. So I think it's time for me to leave. That did it. I just decided to leave.
You flew a little bit north from Florida to Georgia.
Yeah, it's just, I checked it out carefully. I looked at the latitude and the longitude to see how far in I have to be away from the ocean. I checked that. And I checked the elevation, too, because Florida is so much at the ocean. I mean, it's not land that's high above. It's almost level with the ocean, maybe a foot above or something like that. So they're having their problems with water now coming in. A lot of floodings. It wasn't there when I was there. But that's how it is. So this is more comfortable, and I had retired from what I had been doing. I had reached a point in the music where I think I've done all I'm destined to do. So let me move into something else. So that's when I came here, and I immediately started taking more courses here and getting into the palmistry. So that's how I got involved. And it didn't start until I got here full force. I did it in Miami, but not taking it professionally, seriously. Just doing what I could other than that. So.
One of the things that you mentioned is you use the example of metaphysics or parapsychology being this tree with many branches and parts that kind of splinter off from each other. When you were talking about, I thought that is really what is on the hand, is these little branches of things that are displayed that kind of show the journey and the story. So the basic concept of then reading the palm is that the position of the physical body as expressed through the hands talks to the experiences and possibilities that are kind of revealed then in your flesh. Is that an adequate way to describe why palms are read? Okay.
Well, first off, we're talking about a palm reading that's an ancient art form. It was a highly respected form, and the form was to hand analyze the hand. And the word reading associated with the palms, didn't come until the Catholic Church got involved with this because people who did palms or any kind of psychic work were considered charlatans, and they're not to be believed. And everybody followed the church guidelines. So palmistry and the other metaphysical things sort of went underground. Thanks to the gypsies, they continued doing it because they were doing it before, and they just continued with them. And it was referred to more as palm reading. It's not to take away from it because you are reading the palms. And that stayed underground for several years. And it wasn't until, I think it was around 1600, they call that area the Renaissance, the new rebirth of interest in many things, when palmistry came from the undergrounds to up, and everybody was hearing about it more because the philosophers use this in their analysis. Even some doctors historically use this in helping their patients. So it's a form that's respected. And great interest came here in the latter part of the 1800s, when interest really grew. And in the 20th century, it really took off in the last 50 years. So, yes, we are reading the lines and the branches. We do have a term for the branch, but I think you're referring to those little lines. They're referred to as minor lines. You have the big lines in the hand. These are the major lines, the lines that everybody has. Everybody has 3 big lines in their hand. So that's one is the one that's closest to the thumb, and there's one that's closest to the fingers, and then there's one in the middle. And they all mean something. How do we tell the meaning? What shape are they in? I mean, is it a sturdy line? Is it a weak-looking line? Is the line broken up? All of these tells the person who has the hand what shape they're in, what's going on in their life. And another thing, what direction the line is going in. That's very important. Now, for example, I'll talk about the headline, if I can, the one that's closest to the thumb. That's the headline. But another term for it is the vitality energy line. A lot of people think that if their headline, if that line is short, that means I'm going to die. No, it doesn't. It doesn't tell you anything about you're going to die. I mean, we're all going to pass away eventually one time. But no, that line is just simply saying that you don't have the energy to keep going. You have to stop, breathe a little bit, build your energy level up again, and then continue. Think of it like a person that's walking or running, and maybe they have a friend with them. I don't know. But they're running. They want to run 2 city blocks. And the second one is running, and they go toward the second one. You, who has this short lifeline, you can run maybe 1 block and just a small portion of the second block, and you have to stop and bend over and breathe. You don't have the energy to keep going on that one run. You just do that.
That's my line.
You build your energy up, and then you can go. So people should never feel that line is going to tell. No, it does not. It's just telling you the kind of energy you have. And suppose you do have an unbroken line. What shape is your line in? What is the quality of your line? Is it broken up? Do you have little blocks on it? That's not so good. So we like to see if a person is taking care of themselves, keeping themselves in balance. That simply means, are you eating correctly? Do you eat too much fast food? Are you getting plenty of rest, enough rest? And are you moving your body? So if you stay in balance, then that line should be looking firm, clear, not broken, does not have any attachments to it, then that looks good. If it seems to go all around your thumb, and we find that some people do not have it going around the thumb, but if it does, this means, and assuming that the quality is good, that means you're going to be here for a long time. So I usually ask people in your family that live a long time, and sometimes they'll say, yes, I have someone who's in their 90s. I say, well, you're going to make that too, but maybe there's a gap in the line. And I say, just watch that. You might have a little breakdown in your health here. But then I'll look inside the line, because we do have help. Sometimes we think of it as sister lines, angel lines, or ancestral help. I think of it as another piece of equipment that's going to kick in and pick up the slack wherein your line has a gap there. Support lines, they're all support lines. So you may have that, and most of us do have support lines. So yes, you have help, and you're not going to die. You're in good shape. You can take care of your body. It'll show in your hands. If you have thoughts of doing something, that's going to show in your hands. If you change your mind, that'll show in your hands. Suppose you have a palm reading today, and next month you happen to pass by a palm reader and they look at your palms. You may hear something a little different. That's because your mind is changing. You're doing something else. So things are not written in stone as far as changes are concerned. Now, the line won't move from there. It's just the quality that may change, or the direction the line is going in may change. So
that's interesting, because you think about fingerprints. They say your fingerprint is the thing that is so unique it never changes, the whorl pattern on that. But from what you're saying in the palm, that things can be more prominent or receded depending on what's happened. I think one thing you mentioned to me was like there was a particular line that normally presents within a couple weeks of you meeting a potential soulmate or love partner. But you're like, you have to kind of be paying attention to it if you're going to catch it, you know. So
I'll say something about
it's a mutable thing in the hand.
Yes. Now, I want to first go back to what you were saying about the print. That does not change. A palm reader reads the same latent prints that law enforcement reads. That will never change because the palm, unless somebody just cuts your palms, but they have a tendency to kind of grow unless they've really destroyed your palm. The best thing is to cut the fingers off and we don't see it. But you do have prints in the palm of your hand. So that won't change unless the hand is removed. So there are things that are permanent there. Now, we can't tell where the person is. Like the police, they have equipment and known all over the world. These fingerprints can be checked. What the palmist does is examine those prints and tell the kind of person you are, how well you work with others, if you have a tendency toward doing bad things, if you have a tendency toward having mental problems, it goes at it more specifically as opposed to identifying these fingerprints belonging to this John Doe or this Mary Jane, that kind of thing. So now, I'm sorry, I was talking so much I almost forgot your next question was in reference to.
Well, the line. Can
you tell me?
They kind of, the line, like one line you were saying, it only kind of appears before a particular event. So there's changing.
I got it. Now, a lot of people, at least the ladies, and because this can happen to a man's hand also, are interested in that true love. This line has reference to your soulmate or your true love, the person that's supposed to be for you no cheating, serious stuff. You'll find that comes through from the inside of the headline. It's not going to be a long line. It'll be from the inside, and it comes out and heads toward the direction, even though it doesn't get there, to the top line, the line that's close to fingers. Okay? That's your heart line. Okay? It's like pointing there. The inside of your lifeline, that's where your thumb ball is, that fleshy part, that's Venus. We have these Greek names that we label portions of the palm. That's Venus, goddess of love. Anything love, anything passionate, that is the center. This is simply saying that Venus is sending a message to your heart from her heart that someone is coming. Now, when that sign appears, it can just pop up when it's time. When it appears, it will last for 2 weeks and then disappear. Now, the question is, where do I go to meet this person? You don't go anywhere. It's like the format is laid out for you. It could be through a phone call. It could be through meeting somebody in traffic. It will work. It does work. It does. So it'll disappear. Now, with the other person, it will appear in their hand also. I analyze it this way. Since we are spirit and we take life over and over again, we knew this love that's coming into our life from a previous lifetime. When we are in our normal, real form, in spirit form, an agreement is made that we will find each other. I will find you, and we will find each other. You may look totally different, but the energy is there, and there are no walls separating anyone from energy. So the energy will find the person. They will come together, and it will be a lasting relationship. Once you have met, you may not realize it, but you'll notice that it's something about the person. You can't put your finger on it, but you can't get that person out of your mind. You'll notice a difference with your attitude with that person once you meet the person. So it works. All I can tell you is it works. And I generally tell everybody I read for, especially if they're asking, if there's someone coming in the life, and I have to be honest, maybe there's no one coming at that time, but someone always comes. Right. I have to go the intuitive route and check the calendars and see whether someone is coming soon this year or this month and so on, or is anybody coming. But this one in the hand is foolproof. It's foolproof. So all I say is everybody needs love, because we are sort of the essence of love. We just forgot it. In the true form, we know it, but we kind of forgot it. But fortunately, all the light workers and the metaphysical people are saying the awareness is rising for all human beings, and I believe that too. So we will start to feel this rush of love in spite of anything that's happening in the world. We'll still feel that way. So I just hope everyone who's looking, that line will pop up. You can't wish it in. You can't pray it in. You just have to let Venus do her work. And it's usually a surprise when you see it, because you're not looking for it. You just happen to look at your palm one day, and there's the line.
Oh yeah,
there's
I'm like, do I need to take a picture of my hand and scan it over and send it to you.
Well, you can check it. And I want to say it could be in the left hand or the right hand. Now,
I was just getting ready to approach that. I wanted to approach that because one of the things you share at the beginning of your readings is you really do explain what it is you're seeing in a very informative way. And the first thing you were saying is, after the sum assessment, which was quite interesting as well, was that the non-dominant hand that you don't write with is like kind of like, I think you said the hand what you came in with in terms of energy and potential, and then your dominant hand then is what you're doing with what you came in with. So it's
a hand of choice. Yeah.
Okay, hand of choice. Okay.
Yeah. I call it, my words. Another palm reader may have a different terminology, but I see it this way. Your left hand, the hand that you do not write with, and if you're a person that's ambidextrous and you use both hands, well, then you just tell them to close both fists. I think of many ways. Pick up the pen and write. The one that they use to pick up. That's the more dominant of the two. Okay? Now, with your left hand, I see that as a blueprint, whatever's in the hand, a blueprint of your life in this lifetime, all the potential things that will happen. When do you start work? When do you retire? Is there marriage coming in? What year is it coming in? Are you intuitive? Are you destined to be a healer? Will you have issues with your father? Will you have your mother be the dominant person? Are you going to be so independent that your parents didn't know what to do with you? All of those things come in. Are you destined to have anxiety in your life? Will stress bother you? And do you have a temper? Those are some of the things. And then you go to the right hand and see what you did about it, because we do have choices. You cannot get rid of these big lines like the one I was talking about that's closest to the thumb. The top line was your heart line. The one in the middle was your head line. You can't remove them, but you can change the direction they're going. Maybe you want to do something else mentally in addition to what you're destined to do. Then we'll have another headline, or we can have like a fork in it. There are many ways of choosing. Suppose you're supposed to have a very sad life growing up. You're supposed to experience what life is like for a young person. Tears, a little abuse, unfortunately. But sometimes that's there, and you decide you don't want to go through that. Or you know that you may have to go through it a little more in the next lifetime. So I have seen it where it is much more severe. So they don't go through that again. That's over. But there's a plus side to anything you go through that's difficult. You're usually given the gift of healing. You're given a gift so that you can help other people who may go through this. So you've got gifts in your hand, plus they give you a little more. Maybe you're destined to catch the lotto. There's a sign for that. Maybe you're destined to have luck throughout your life. It may not be lotto all the time, but it's a different kind of luck. Like if you're running short on money and you don't have it, sometimes it always pops up. That's that gift you're giving you. That's a lucky period. And maybe you'll just have some more luck. So then we see another sign for that. You have many signs that come in and then they go. If you're destined to be a teacher, you're going to see a sign that says, teacher. It won't be a word. It'll be a symbol that means teacher. And maybe you inclined to be sick, then you're going to see some, and you're not destined to be sick too long. That's in the hand, too, by little symbols on that particular line. And that says, yes, you're going to be sick, but you're going to be okay, and you're going to come out of it. So that's about it. And what about people who they have a relationship with someone, and for some reason they could be married, or they just could be very close, and don't get along, but they can't bring themselves to walk away completely. It's usually a relationship from someone you knew from a previous lifetime. So depending on how where that line starts, it's very obvious to tell the person that well, you knew this person a previous lifetime. And
Oh,
there's
okay.
some business we'll have to straighten out. It's like living together a little differently. You may have been a cousin to that person. You may have been just a boyfriend. You may have been just a friend, never did get along. Some things you have to work out, because as we move on this wheel, we have to remove all these little issues so we go on the straight road where we're immersed in love and we're back to our true self. Yes. So that's how that works. There's so much to be said about palmistry. Even in that part below the thumb ball, below the thumb, that's telling you whether you are a person who is more prone toward, maybe you're sensitive. Maybe you're just a fragile type of person. You can't stand noise. You don't like conflict of any kind. It'll show there the kind of palm you have. Sorry, I said palm. I mean the thumb ball. Or maybe you're a person who likes working outside and you don't mind getting your hands rough and rugged looking. That's more for men now. And your hands are abrasive, and maybe you may get a cut. You don't even feel it. And that'll show in the hand. And, well, there are all kinds of things there. I'm sorry.
Well, one thing that, I giggle all the time with a good friend of mine who had a reading from you, because when you looked at her thumb ball, you said, "Oh, do you have a temper?" Because it's like she would always talk about her hands would get hot when she would be upset with something, and she's just like, "Oh, my hands are so hot, I feel," and then you're telling her, well, yeah, you're going to have a pent-up of energy that you need to release when you're upset about something. So since this was like 4 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was 4 years ago, so since then.
How is she now?
Yeah. Well, no, we laugh about it. She uses it as a meter, to see, okay, am I, is my thumb, she'll look down at it, like especially if we're talking about something that she'll look down and it's just, so it's kind of been like a weather vane since that time, rather funny. It's like, watch your thumb, girl, watch your thumb.
Well, it sounds
it's like the fleshy part, kind of.
Yes. I'll just say this. We could tell whether a person has a temper or anger, because right between the thumb and the index finger, when you're going toward the thumb, there's that little loop part. That's the aggressive part of a human hand. Okay? If you have a line that's coming right through that little hump there, that's called the warrior sword. If it's well defined, wow, you do have a strong temper. And people that have tempers, they will blow up. Not every day. It's like they keep things in, and that inside becomes so full, that's when the hands become hot. In fact, the hands do swell. And it just comes out, and they can't stop it. It's like a faucet. They have to let it out. And yes, I have told them, and I'll keep telling everyone, that when that happens, don't try to hold it in. Let it out. Just don't do it in a place of worship or in a court. You've got to use your head a little bit. So when this happens, let it out. Why? Because, I was talking about that lifeline, which is close to the thumb. All right. That's your passion area. So that line is curving down toward that, and that swells up. And if that energy, because there's nothing but pent-up energy, if that energy does not have a way to come out, like a pressure from a pressure cooker, then you will find your lifeline becomes disrupted and may separate a little bit, and this may lead to sickness. So it's not worth it to get sick, your health to be affected simply because you got angry. So yes, let it out and do a good job of it. because you'll feel better. Your body will feel better because that's pent-up emotions. We're not meant to keep all of that energy inside. That should go.
Right.
But if you're going to retain all of that anger, that's not good in the first place. When you're angry about something, express yourself. Don't keep it pent up. But if you do, you have to just blow steam. So I say to everybody else who happens to be around, just remove yourself. Or just sit there and take it, because the anger usually is not toward anyone in particular. It's usually at yourself. For allowing yourself to take in all of this energy. It's not your energy, but you're taking it in. So that's how that works. So, yes. And so I told these people, I read 4, millions of people have the same thing, the warrior sword. Or they have anger, but not to that degree. If you have no line in between here, that means, you get angry, but you don't have a big time temper. No, that doesn't happen. No. So that's how that is.
It's just so, it's amazing because, like, our physical fleshly body, it really does speak to us on a constant basis. And we've learned to look at certain things as normal. Like, I can feel my heart pitter-pattering, or if I can feel the blood pulsing in my veins, or I feel myself starting to get a cold, you know, but things and people who have arthritis, I'll tell you, well, I know when it's about to rain, you know, when the pressure's changing, but there's such a more depthful layer of information when you really do tune into all the messages that are being sent from within yourself, be it heat, coolness, swelling, contraction, fluttering, sweating, pulsing, you know, all of this is written in our flesh, you know, so I think it's just fascinating.
It is. We're always getting messages from the body. And one thing that comes to mind, I know better. I love nuts, peanuts, and we don't get along too well. My stomach does not like the peanuts, because I get that bubbly sound, I get a little ache or a little pain. But then when it goes away, I say, okay, body, I'm going to give you a rest. I'm not going to bother you. And then I get the urge, I'll do it again. It's the same problem. And sometimes certain foods bother you. Your body always lets you know that they don't like that. It's just, maybe you did it when you were younger and everything was new. It could handle it. It wasn't used to all this stuff. But after a while, you just can't do the same things because it will affect you. You'll start to feel it more. We're always getting messages. Sometimes we don't want to listen to them. But we'll get to a point where we have no choice. So it's either being realistic about this or suffering the cost. Because every action has a reaction. Every action has a reaction. And that goes with anything you put in your body, anything you put on your body that hurts, you know, that's your body saying, no, I don't like that. Just try not to do it. Do something else. And you can. We have choices. Yeah. But the hand is a record of everything. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, I say the skin is the largest organ of the body. So here you are in the area of the skin that has a story to tell. It's also the way that we are interacting with the world. We touch things, we pick things up, we touch other people. I mean, it's so essential that we're sensing things with our hands. I mean, that's the first thing that people do to reach out to comfort somebody is place their hand on their shoulder or to place their hand in the hand of a baby. You know, it's like there's something so essential about that portion of ourselves encountering our world sensory-wise. It stands to reason that it would be telling such a story from that, you know, as well, than the internal story being presented through the hands.
Yeah, And we all have intuition. And our intuition talks to us to give us the urge, to desire to put our hand on a person, to console them, to hold a baby. All of these things. Give somebody a hug. It's something within us that have us doing that. It is our natural intuition which says love is needed at this point. And then we just automatically do it. We don't think about it. It's just we just do it. It seems to be the thing to do. So we do respond that way. And that's very good. I don't see that ever changing. I really don't. Because we are naturally made to console each other. In spite of maybe some things the person said to us before, but when a person is in need, really need, because that can happen to any one of us, we tend to come to that person and offer some type of condolence, some type of help, and again, hugs. You can't beat hugs. Hugs are so important. Everybody needs. It's like getting closer to that natural love, that feeling, that passion that we all have. And sometimes we forget we have. But it's not going away. It's there. It's there. So, yes, our body is always talking to us. Spirit's always talking to us. I know the organs in the body are talking to us, because if we put on too much in the front where those organs are, they don't like that. They just, I wish you could, I could see into the body, and you see these organs trying to find a space, and they're pushing the other, like naughty children. I'm telling you, it's funny. But, yeah, they have a way. They're working with us, but we have to kind of help sometimes. We really do. We really do. We can't just immerse ourselves in things that are not good for us, and we know they're not good. That's something. If we don't know, we will find out. But if we know and we still do it, that's wrong. That's really wrong.
Is it willful then?
I don't know what it is.
Well, the whole thing, like all these aspects that you're talking about, the palm, I can absolutely understand why you were curious enough to study more and to learn. And one of the things that you have done is that you've actually written a book on palmistry.
Yes,
is it the art of reading? What is the
language of the hands? The language of the hands.
And I think it was like a third edition last time I checked on it.
Yes,
You've had this book out for many years.
Yes, I'm revising it so that, because right now it's on sale as two books. The beginner level and the intermediate are combined. And then the next book is the advanced level. But I'm putting them all together and adding more material, so it's just one book. I hope to have that done by September. No promises, but I hope to have it done. But it's going to be finished, and I'm delighted. And sometimes I look at the book and say, I did that? When your mind is for something, you get involved and you're doing it, and you just do it. And after you've done it, and you look at it and say, did I do that? Yeah, I did. Maybe it's just me.
Well,
but
no, it's when it's divinely, divine adds that little boost of support that pushes us through things, and we turn around like, wow, Spirit, okay, we really brought something out.
I'm telling you, really hit it on the head. I couldn't have said it any better than that. When you're divinely inspired to do that. My father used to say that phrase, you will do it, and it'll work out fine. Because it's divinely inspired. I like that, yes. And the thumb, speaking about the thumb says a lot of things. So if a person, even though I'm not reading any palms at this point because we're on the phone, but if anybody listening, and just wiggle your thumb around and see how flexible it is. And if you do it if you're right-handed, and if you do it on your left hand and wiggle it around, that's an and it's very flexible, that says people thought that you were naive when you were younger, like you were easy to take advantage of. People take advantage of you. If it's flexible but not really flexible, you get a slight feel of stiffness there. That means you don't pull any punches. You don't let anybody take advantage of you. You're okay. You can handle yourself very well. And then you should do the hand, the thumb on your active hand. That would be your right hand, unless you're a left-hander, okay? And if that's usually it's a little stiffer. It's like you've learned through the years how to better handle yourself so no one gets the wrong impression. So that's a little more tougher or a little more tighter, not quite as flexible. Now the thumb, if you bend the thumb down, just the top, the first joint from the top, if that is a little stiff when you bend it, that means you're stubborn. If you can bend it it's very flexible, you're not really stubborn. But if it's a little stiff, that means you're stubborn. And then check the other finger, your left hand, and see if that's stiff. You'll find that may be more flexible. They're a little different. That means you've learned your lesson. Maybe you've learned that you need to be a little more like, make up your mind when you want to make up your mind. A little stubborn about things. Take your time. Because when you did it the other way, when it wasn't that way, you maybe got your feelings hurt or people got the wrong opinion or the wrong idea. Whatever it was, you decide to make a change. That's why I like to call that active hand the hand of choice. You learn by doing. And your decision here is to have a little stubbornness in you. You get along better in society with a little stubbornness. Nothing wrong with that. We all have that one way or the other. Yeah, so that's the thumb. Go ahead.
Are you able to see traumas? Like, say, then a person might have been traumatized by something and it caused them to be less, say, flexible in their choice? Are you able to kind of see the story of those? Is this a physical
trauma? You're talking about physical trauma or mental?
I don't know. Is there a difference in how they?
When I say physical, could it have been like a slight injury to the thumb?
Car accident or to the person's body. Like if there was something that was emotionally traumatic, let's say, for instance, like say you were somewhat naive or and had a issue then at some point maybe where you were then burglarized or like violently accosted or something that really caused you to shut down and how you operate the world, maybe in an overabundance of, is that visible?
The answer is yes. The answer is yes. Now, the detail of when this could happen and more details on what happened, that comes when you kick in your intuition, because that's a part of doing readings. It's not just like books and papers and studying. You go beyond that, and you compare your left hand with your right hand, your blueprint hand, and it will show that you will run into a problem, what age period, and what kind of trauma will occur. And depending on the line, it doesn't have to be on your lifeline. That means your vitality and all that's going to be affected. But maybe it's more mental. Maybe it's a little mental breakdown. We'll see it on that middle line we call the head line. There's a symbol for that that'll show on that line on your blueprint hand. I'm calling it blueprint hand, but that's your inactive hand. Now, if it's something to do with the heart, it could be physical or it could be just your heart is broken. That will show on your line. And I do see a lot of those heartbreak symbols on the heart line, especially at the beginning of the line. It's like you're sort of letting your shield down and you're allowing yourself to fall in love, and it doesn't work out. Maybe the person walked away. Maybe it's a big disappointment. Well, that will show. It's like sometimes you have two of these, or you could have three. You may have one that's really big. That means a big heartbreak you can expect in this lifetime. And it'll show the time period on that. And then we look at that, but we look beyond that and see if you're going to be okay, how long you're going to go through this stuff. And then that'll show. That's why I think of a lot of these things as a lesson and experience you needed to go through it. So you're done with it. But it's not struggle and heartache and pain continuously. It's like the growth, what's going on. So, yes, it will show in the palms. If for your intuition, it goes into more detail as to, well, what happened? What was the issue involved? But in the hand, we see that you're going to have an issue with the heart, and the way it's placed there will say whether it's a physical problem or an emotional problem. Usually these are emotional. Once in a while, physical. Or it could be mental. Maybe you were trying too hard. Maybe pressure was put on you. And when is this happening? It'll show the years. You're around 23 when this happened. Or you're around 18. Or in your 30s. And so on. And once that's done, it's almost like smooth sailing. There are no more issues because whatever lesson you had to learn or whatever experience you had to have, you had it. You passed. You got your diploma. You move on. So, all of those answers are there. So there's so many things in the palm.
What do you do?
Answers all your questions. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, what do you do when you've encountered a person who has energy that is, let's say, very negative in terms of necessarily their character or behavior? Have you encountered any really ugly kind of energies that have challenged you on how to relay messages to the person?
No, I haven't.
Or
I just haven't simply because I put my protections on and I have immersed myself in love, positive energy, and that's all I think. That's the essence of how I am. I clear my aura. I also check my chakras, all of those things. You have to do that because there's so much different energy out. So my energy will not allow that kind of energy to come in. If it happens to pass by, I will know it, and I know so to keep my distance. As far as contact, they don't come in my energy field. They can't.
Okay.
It's just like something keeping them out. The protection that you put on. So,
absolutely.
No, I don't. But I know people
that.
have that, and especially if you're an empath, you will feel it. But the feeling is like a form of protection. You feel it, and you remove yourself from there. Because if you're feeling it, empaths cannot be around that kind of energy long, maybe seconds, but they have to know because it's so strong. They really feel it. So I say if you're in a comfortable position, even if you're in a house, go outside or go to another room if you're feeling that. You don't need to stay there because you're going to be extremely uncomfortable. So you don't want that. And surround yourself with white light and surround yourself with positive energies. And don't be afraid to call the spirits. Call on the big boys. That's what I call them, the archangels.
That's right.
For protection.
That's right.
They're always there. They are always there. I have to just deviate a little bit and tell you this. I had a dream. Sometimes my dreams are vivid. And I dreamed I was walking somewhere, and this man came up to me, and I sensed danger immediately. And he was coming toward me, and like he was going to hit me or something. And I just screamed, Michael, Michael. I was calling on Archangel Michael. I just didn't have time to say Archangel. I just said, Michael. And here comes this man and says, lady, are you all right? And he looked at the man. The man just moved away. I don't know what came out of his eyes. My point is, they're always there. But don't expect someone with angel wings to come. It could be anybody. They take all forms. But you get the help whenever you call for it. And I was so happy, relieved. I felt good because I really felt good. That's positive energies coming in. That's from a dream. But reality, no, I haven't. I have felt that kind of energy. I've sensed that kind of energy, but I was always in a safe spot. I didn't have to move because my energy field I keep it protected. You always, especially doing this work, you really have to keep a nice shield around you. Have you felt that, or you know somebody who has felt that way?
Well, I definitely, as I'm reading, I definitely, shield and protect, and I definitely honor my intuition that says, no, do not engage this person, do not interact with their energy, and I absolutely, thankfully, was taught about archangelic interventions with Archangel Metatron, Archangel Michael. So I deploy that all the time and keep the white bubble. So it is kind of like a repellent around. But you mentioned at the very beginning about how you were an open channel. My experiences have been with people who I have encountered. I have a very good friend who did not realize that he was an open channel, and he was meditating quite frequently, and he was channeling various energies, and it terrified his wife. And pretty much, he went into like a psychiatric type. Well, he would know that he was opening to the energy. No, he was not really aware. He was struggling with what was happening and feeling, and it wasn't until, he would speak voices and different energies, and some of them were actually quite nasty. And when I encountered him, the energy that came through, I immediately was like, okay, the angels are here at this point. And I realized that I was shown him in that circumstance in order to facilitate getting him to someone who could teach him how to manage his channel. And I told him it's like screening your phone calls. You don't just pick up the phone for anybody who calls just because they're on your line. You look at the caller ID first, And one of the things that I know that you do is you teach psychic development and palmistry and a variety of other metaphysical topics. So, I want to find out a little bit more about, because even in this conversation you've taught, so you've been very teaching in terms of the things that you're talking about, very instructive. It's very natural for you. I'm receiving all the little lessons that you're giving. But for people who want to find out what else that you're doing and how to take a palm reading class with you or any of the other things that you're offering.
Well, my website, I'm working on another website, but that's not ready now. But at present, it's Alpha Wisdom, ALPHAWISDOM. That's beginning understanding or beginning knowledge. .net. That's all it is. AlphaWisdom.net. And yes, I do teach psychic development. And I was thinking about this young man. Sometimes we are so anxious to get going with this, but you need guidance. You don't need anybody to give you the gift. You already have that. But you're dealing with energies, all kinds of energies. The good energy, positive energies, and then we have the low part. These are the entities that look for a free ride. I call them tricksters. They trick you in thinking that this is positive, and you don't know because you haven't experienced it enough, and you're not fully protected. So they latch on and they take over, and you think you're getting good information, and it's not good information. It's so important that before you get into that work, you must ground yourself and go into that protective bubble, and you need to clear your chakras or have someone clear them for you, and clear your aura, because they're looking for free rides. They like to latch on to your aura. So this is something like a daily cleaning, especially if you get into this work. And another thing I found, if you are beginning this, it's like they come in droves. They don't really come in droves, but they do come in to try to see if they can become a part of you, to get involved with it. But you don't need them. When you know better, they don't bother you. And one other point, you have power over them. When you know they're there, you can command them to leave. Use any words you want to use. You can get rid of them. They don't need to be there. It's when you feel helpless, like nothing you could do. Oh, they have a field day, but you are the powerful one. So don't ever feel that you don't have control. But you always want to have some kind of guidance when you get into this, because there's certain basic things you need to know to protect yourself.
Absolutely.
So I do have that. It meets once a month. Normally it's like 5 months, but I go with 7 months, because I have found, I guess being a teacher all my life, I want you to understand it and be able to do it well and have the confidence. The confidence generally comes later, because just to start reading for someone, it's okay to say, but to actually do it, it takes practice. It really takes practice. And I check with them. We have phone conversations regularly. Even now that the class is over, when the class was going on, we met even beyond the times that we normally meet for the class, because I want you to get this and get it right and feel that you have it. That's the important thing, the confidence. So, yes, I'm doing it, and I haven't scheduled the next class. I just finished with one last month. So I take in consideration we've got holidays coming up, people here doing the summer, but I will schedule the next one probably starting in May rather than April. And we meet on weekends, Saturdays or Sunday. I usually work with the persons who are interested in taking the class. So nothing is, the time or the date is not set in stone. I'm flexible.
Okay. And for our listening audience, now these classes are not just for a person who wants to become a quote-unquote professional psychic. This is for people who want to look at what maybe they're experiencing in terms of like a sensitivity or a phenomenon. They're seeking answers and ways to kind of grow or gain understanding of that. Would you say that more of your students are not necessarily going with the intent to be in spiritual service at first?
I have found that when they start off with the first class, they're excited. They want to learn as much, to be in control. It's the feeling of being in charge. I know what I'm doing. It's that feeling. But by the time they get to the second, I'd say even before the third month, they're thinking differently. They want to help people, see what they can do to help people, because they're starting to see some results in some of the exercises that we're going to be doing, that they're getting it right. So they're thinking beyond it. So the thinking may change. You may decide you just want to do this for yourself. It's okay. That's not important to get in the class. I just want someone who takes the class to be interested in getting the material down, because it may be needed in the future, because if our awareness is rising, and that simply means that the gifts that you're born with will also start to awaken more. All of that comes together, and you need to know what to do. The lower energies will still be there. I guess they don't want to go through the light. They don't. Because everything stares you in your face when you go to the light. All the bad things that you did. And it's not comfortable at all. And that means many more lifetimes for you to come in and try to get things right. So that can happen. But, yeah, if a person is interested and if it's just for yourself, that's fine. That's fine.
Right.
It's your choice. I found that. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, I'm a very big advocate of doing psychic development classes if it's within your ability to do so, because it really is so much information out there in the YouTube era that you can self-teach certain things, but there is something about being in a community of other learners, and that does not have to be in person. Like I did one that was virtual through the Viva Institute, and I think, am I correct, you went to a psychic development school here in Atlanta at some point?
Yes.
Or did you take some classes before? Okay.
Oh,
and now you have your classes, which are geared towards in person, but there's an aspect of having other learners with which to practice what you're learning on that I found so helpful for me. It
is helpful. It is helpful. Yeah. Yeah. That's why with a class like this, it's good to have, if people are coming, at least 4 or more. I don't think it's the best idea to have a real big class. I won't turn anybody away who comes, but you will sort of team up with one person that you feel a little connection with, and you practice. And of course, in class, you change partners. You're not going to practice with the same person all the time, but there's more class. You have the urge to, when you get home, you've done what you need to do, set a date to practice with someone, phone conversation. I remember when I had taken, after the class was over, 2 of us got together and we would read for each other on a regular basis. Then we added a third in. That person was interested. And we just connected and we read. Then we added a 4th. And we're doing this reading, we're learning, we're feeling more confident. And we decided to just get some people who might be interested in a reading. So we got the name, and we all did that energy reading through the walls. And so we came prepared to read for the person on the phone. And we did this to a point where we said, I think we've had enough. We're ready. And that's when we started. That's how we did. That really helped. But if a class is smaller, I do the phone work myself with these students, and first we do a little review, and then you have to start reading. I want to hear what you're doing, and so on and so on. So I'm very hands-on.
And your palmistry class is your palmistry? You were referring to the psychic development when you talked about the one that just finished.
Now, palmistry class, the next one I'm doing starts the 30th of this month, the 30th. And they run every 2 weeks. I don't like a long stretch because I want to make sure you're getting some practice in, and practicing causes things to sink in. You retain the information on it, and you feel more comfortable. And you have to practice. You've got to notice everything. Even when people are on television, if you see their hands, take a look at their hands, see what you can see. Even if you notice one thing, make a note of that. That's getting you tuned in more toward the palms. And look at several palms. And from experience, even with my students, nobody's going to stick their palms in the pocket. They will give you their hand. They want a reading. And you do the best you can. Focus on the things you're comfortable with, and then just gradually add more and more and more and more. And if you have a feeling about something, include that in the reading. But use discretion. You don't want to tell a person that, I see where you're going to have a bad accident, or you don't want to do something like that, because there are ethics involved with any kind of psychic work.
Yes.
Palmistry also.
Absolutely.
And then you're a beginner. You really need to know what you're doing. So use good taste when it comes to doing readings, palm readings or any kind of reading.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Focus on the things you know, because people will believe what you say. They believe what you say because if they put their palm out for you to read them, they have confidence in what you're going to tell them, and they're going to live by that. So that's very important. You want to say what you see is right. You don't make up anything. If you don't see any more, just don't say any more. That's the best way to go at it.
When you mentioned the ethics, too, which is so important, because if you're dealing with an awareness that people, they may be revealing something about themselves, either through their energy field, or your guide may tell you this person is just such and such, or you may look at that hand and see something, but it's not always the time or place or appropriate for you to share the spiritual knowledge that your guides are communicating with you for your awareness versus communicated with you for the other person's awareness. And, I see these TV shows where people come up and cold read, and things like that. And it's like, well, hold on a second. My guys have yet to ever tell me to approach somebody in the grocery store and say, I need to see your palm because it looks like you're going to die,
No, you don't do that. It's because you don't know whether the person believes in any of that. You don't know what state of mind that person is in. You don't know the person. So, no. It's you do that if you have a one-on-one meeting with that person. If you get in a conversation with a stranger and you want to tell them something, don't do it. Just have your card there saying, start a conversation, and then bring that in when you find a moment, a good moment to do it, and maybe give them a card. You can't do that because you don't know if the person is even interested in anything you're saying.
Right.
Sometimes you might be insulted. So why take a chance? It's not a good idea to do that. That's when we get into ethical problems. No, if it's something personal, especially if it's about someone who's passed over, you want to do that in a comfortable situation, an intimate situation, just you and the person, maybe in your living room or in your office, somewhere private, and then you could tell the person is open to hear it, the fact that you're meeting with them, but not just off the street. No. That's I know some people do it, but I'm kind of old school on this. If you're going to do it, do it right. Yeah, and that's not the right way, in my opinion.
Well, and to me, it's very much like the confession in the Catholic tradition is that if you're connecting with someone for a spiritual purpose of communicating divine guidance to them, that is the most intimate to me, it's more intimate than sex or anything, because the angelic realm and the higher realms have entrusted you to be a clear deliverer or channel of this message to a person for their help, So being taking care with that relationship. It is actually, it's a service mantle that you are carrying from your divine gifts, and there are people who don't take that as strongly as others, and you can certainly sense that as you start to interact with people. So I know that you, in approaching you from the first reading to the last readings that I've had with you, and everyone who has encountered you has been, it is very straightforward, but it was absolutely so helpful, the guidance that came from that reading, very actionable, that when the things started occurring subsequent to the reading, they were like, oh my gosh, I mean, this is more than one person and myself including. So, I have to say thank you as a receiver of your gift for sharing that with us. And you also still provide private palm readings and Reiki and other services. You don't just teach. So how can people, they can go to alphawisdom.net, but do you have like a phone or email as well?
Yes, my phone is there. I can give my number now. It's 770-826-3527. That's 770-826-3527. And if
Okay.
if I don't answer, I'm maybe with a client. Please leave a message, and I will respond back to you the same day. Yeah.
Okay.
I do Reiki at the office. I'm located in Hiram. That's off of Highway 278. It changes names. It's Jimmy Smith Parkway. It's 278 all the way, and then it's Windy Bagwell Parkway. So when it starts windy, I'm in that area. I can give the address if you'd like.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, okay. It's 5604 Windy Bagwell Parkway. It's Suite 222. Hiram,
oh, I love it.
222. I have to check the vibration of that 222 and see what it is. And the zip code is 30141. That's 5604 Windy Bagwell. 222 Suite. Yeah. So
and
I'm enjoying. I've only been there since May. So, but it's a very nice area, right off the highway. You were saying?
And people who are not in the Atlanta metro area, you also are able to provide your services at a distance, including Reiki,
yes.
correct?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I can send Reiki energy, yes, because I'm a Reiki master, Holy Fire Karuna Reiki master. That's the highest level.
Yeah.
And I also do phone readings. That's intuitive readings. I'm a medical intuitive, seeing in the body. That's like, it reminds myself of that tree. As that tree grows and you really devote yourself to this, you'll find you've got another little gift you didn't know you have. So you'd be doing something else. So I have expanded. Of course, palm reading, I teach classes in it. I read palms, of course. And let's see, what else do I do? I think that I'm an author. And I'm still a musician.
Do you play piano anymore? Okay, you're still a musician. Okay, good.
I sold my house in 2015, and I had a grand piano. I sold that because everything had to go. And I'm going to be moving sometime this year. I don't have a date yet. And then whenever I move, I'm going to get the piano because I've got some ideas for things I want to do. As far as concerts, I'm not doing that anymore. I even taught piano music. I haven't closed the door on that. But writing music or descants over hymns in the church, I love that. I can come up with ideas very quickly. And I've written some original things. So we will see. And besides that, I'm working on 2 more books. You know, once you start this, the energy just flows and you just don't want to stop. You get an idea to do this and then you want to do something else and so on and so on. But that's me. That's where I am, and I'm enjoying it.
I would say, isn't it fun, though? I mean, I am having the biggest blast riding it along with Spirit. You know what I'm saying? It's like, what am I going to learn next and what adventure?
It is. In fact, I did learn something else, and I'm offering a class in that. There are 2 counseling officers on the same floor, and one is, she's very good. We work together. Name of her business is Second Chance or More Counseling Services. And some of her clients I meet with. But anyway, there's so much love missing in the world that I have been inspired to teach a course in loving yourself, how to love yourself. And it's 7 days. It goes into the depth of why you don't love yourself. And by the end, you love yourself some more. You have to be willing to look at yourself or look in a mirror and say, I like you. I love you. Call your name and say, I really love you. And mean it. Not say it because you're doing a practice. It's an exercise. But it gets better and better. I think that's so well needed. So I've been inspired to do that. So I'm going to be teaching a class on that.
That's wonderful. We are definitely raising the frequency of love vibration on this planet every day.
So important. So important. Yes, that's for sure. And even some of the readings that I'm doing, everybody seems to be leaning in that direction, focusing more on loving yourself. Just
yes.
love. Yeah.
Absolutely. So I really enjoyed our conversation this evening, and I do have a rain check to play some duets with you on a grand piano at some point in time because I'm a classical pianist myself. I haven't forgot about that now.
Are you still
I'm
playing?
not a pipe organist. You know how it goes. I don't have a I play for myself, and I don't do full-time church work anymore. That burnt me out. You know what I'm saying? But I didn't understand. I didn't understand about all the dynamics that I was moving with my psychic gifts as part of that playing church music. So that's why I was very interested in that part of your story. But you know, the music never leaves you.
No, it may take a back seat, but it's not going to go anywhere. That's what I have found. It just manages to stick around. I think that's wonderful. I have really enjoyed this, and I could just talk and talk and talk, you know, because it's a wonderful subject. And I'm so thankful, I'm grateful that more people are becoming interested in this because it's a part of us. It's who we really are.
Absolutely.
And I think that's good. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm going to be sharing on the Viberarian page about your website and ways that people can contact you going forward. And this episode of tonight's show will be on the Viber YouTube channel for people to encounter it when they are led to it and in the right time. And I think that there will be something in our conversation that will reach that person who is also beginning to encounter their own spiritual gifts or has never understood why they can't stop looking at people's hands and fingers, you know. And so I thank you for being able to share your story with us this week. Did you have any kind of final words of wisdom for everyone before we go off the show this evening?
Well, just be happy and be passionate about what you're doing. And don't take things personal. Don't take things too personal. This is, has been said, this is the world of karma. And one karma seems awful. How could God let this happen? And there's another karma. Karmas are happening on top of each other. So you just stay on your path and just enjoy the path. And don't let things get to you.
I'll receive that. Thank you so much. This has been the Psychic Inside Show.
Oh, okay.
Go ahead.
No, I'm saying I'm just so grateful for this opportunity, and I want to thank you. It was my pleasure to be here.
Oh, well, you have been a blessing to me, not only on this show, but in my personal life. And I've been telling you for over a year and a half that I wanted to have you scheduled for the show, and I'm glad that it happened in the right time. And I know that it was divinely ordered. So I'm very grateful to be in this place, to be able to meet people like with you and share your stories with everyone. And we'll be back next Tuesday for another episode of the Psychic Inside Show. My guest is Dr. Tracy Johnson, and she is a metaphysician. She is also very much about love and the one heart of the world. And I cannot wait to kind of have her coming in behind this interview because it seems like variations on a theme right now. So I do ask you to join me back next Tuesday for another episode of the Psychic Inside Show. In the meantime, check me out on Facebook and Instagram and YouTube and all of the wonderful high vibrational people that are bringing their gifts forward, that I am trying to help support that. I feel so blessed to be here this evening. And for each of you who have been listening, thank you so much for tuning in this evening and taking the time to share the experiences of my guest. And for each of you, I wish for you absolutely all of the blessings that you could hold and that they spill out over your arms and onto the world around you. The light in me absolutely honors the light in you. Namaste.
Namaste.